Important such interaction is for students to develop proficiency in a new language. It's through discussion that students practice key language skills such as clarifying information, elaborating, or negotiating meaning.
What if he was protecting his family, huh? Huh? What do you say?
At least, yeah, but he doesn't die.
High-quality PSYOP lessons provide frequent interactions between teachers and students and among students for both practicing language skills and exploring the content concepts.
Yeah, I think something like that too.
I do use a lot of different grouping strategies in my classroom, whether it's pairs or small group or whole group, depends. For the most part, it seems that I begin with whole group. Almost always, we begin together on the rug. From there, we almost always move in to pairs on the rug still, so that they're seeing me as in a whole group experience, they're watching me model. From there, they have a chance just one-on-one with their partner. I like moving to that before I move to small group. I think it's less threatening to just be one-on-one rather than one with 3 listening to you. From there, typically, we'll move to our groups of 4, and then they're having the chance to share out or to do some type of learning with 3 people they're supporting, but they have had the opportunity.
When needed, teachers or other students can clarify key concepts in a student's native language.
Miss, ¿cómo se dice conquistar?
To conquer.
Okay.
To conquer. Right? So
I think the Spain's come from concrete. The for contract American.
okay, they came to conquer America.
This strategy can quickly provide students with conceptual knowledge without interrupting the flow of a lesson. When learning content through a second language, just listening to a lecture or reading a textbook chapter is insufficient for mastering the material.
Yeah, over by the central.
There's some more spoons right here.
English learners benefit from lessons that incorporate hands-on, visual, and other kinesthetic tasks because they practice the language and content knowledge through multiple modalities. PSYOP teachers are careful not only to include activities that apply the content concepts in new ways, but also to develop activities that apply the language skills they want the students to learn.
First reading language, Sumerian, road, cuneiform.
Working in partners, students were given the opportunity to read the information on the cards to each other out loud.
Cuneiform means weight, shape, writing.
Practicing their oral language skills and their listening skills, and then speaking and discussing which they thought was most important, what the main idea was about that particular achievement. From that information, they needed to write down a sentence on a sentence strip, practicing their written language and their oral language as well.
With more water, farmers could plant more crops on the land, and more crops increase the food production.
Very good.
Even though preparing a PSYOP lesson is a critical element for teaching English learners and promoting their academic achievement, the lesson delivery component of the PSYOP model reminds teachers that they must also implement their lesson plan effectively and meet their language and content objectives.
Here's your warm-up.
Today's lesson began, as most of my lessons do, with a warm-up, which is an activity designed to settle the students, but also to get them thinking about some aspect of the lesson that they can relate to personally. After the warm-up, we then turn to the board and we focus on the objectives. This is our ritual. I have a student read the objectives, and we then discuss content versus language objectives.
Today in U.S. history, we will read and discuss issues about the atomic bomb in small groups. Agree on a position and orally defend your position.
We did a quick little background and then gave them a visual for the first discussion question for the response groups. Then I moved into the process of the response groups. I reminded them how it was going to work by showing them the the writing tools that they would have, the readings and the writing tools. After passing those out, the students began their discussion. Their task was to read the adapted text, discuss it,
I think A, publicly reject the development of atomic bombs as
and come to an agreement on the position they would take. After the students agreed on their position, their task was to write down reasons supporting that decision.
After Ms. Formoso's students worked in response groups, they presented their ideas to the class.
We think that President Roosevelt should immediately begin an emergency effort to construct an atomic bomb because the U.S. is in a race against the Germans.
And commented on other groups' responses.
We respect your decision, but we agree with Mrs. Sylvia and Mrs. Claudia that we should make the bomb because...
Thus meeting the language and content goals.